Good Friday morning. This is the January 24th Loudoun County weather update, and just going to share that it's definitely not as cold as it was last night. There have been some flurries around this morning, and though nothing too much, but hey, just some conversational flurries. We've had snow falling from the air quite a few days all winter, so that's kind of a big change from other years. So it's kind of what we have to look at. Okay, so here we are. We're in the heart of the cold, but the cold is retreating. The coldest of air is retreating to the north, and because of that, with some winds coming off the mountain, so a little bit downsloping last night, our temperatures actually rose in parts of the area. So just depending on where you were, if you had some wind, it may have been a higher temperature when you woke up than where if it was still, you got the colder temperatures. The lowest spots possibly were the coldest, and the higher spots were not, so because they got influenced by wind. So something interesting that can happen. So here we go, moving forward. We remain in the cold side of things, but we can see that the isotherms are moving northward. Tomorrow we will likely get above freezing. Today we may get above freezing because we're starting off so warm in spots. And then the high to our south is going to pump our southwesterly winds into the area and start to warm us up Sunday into the 40s, Monday into the 50s. It doesn't look like super duper warm or anything, but we could see 50s next week. Probably more likely 40s. Later in the week, we get a small disturbance to come through, so this looks pretty warm. I mean, this is Wednesday. This is looking much warmer, so you'll see that in the forecast. And then a front comes through and cools us off again. This is pretty tight isotherms as well as isobars, so it's going to be a breezy, windy Thursday, Friday, so cold conditions return as we move into the weekend. And then what we've been watching is this upper level low here to see if it ever ejects out. If it does while the cold is around, of course we get wintry weather. If it doesn't, it's something, it could be something in between or become rain. And that's kind of what the models are struggling with right now. Does this low pressure system ever eject out and get involved with colder air, or does it eject out when the warm air arrives? And right now it's kind of a combination of both on these models. They've been showing kind of an icy setup at least at the start of the storm system, and then maybe some follow-up warmer conditions. But I mean, here's cold trying to come back down. So the warm we may experience may be brief. We'll just have to see what's going on in respect to that. Just to do it justice, I want to show the European as well, to show you some scenarios and setups. So here's what we're looking at in the current situation, cold air in place. That's moving forward. So this was the 0Z, so this was like midnight time frame run of the model. Cold air sticks around, but again, it's not as cold until later, this week. We get this reinforcing shot. Here comes it comes with colder air and windy conditions. Remember, we're on the east side of the high. We get good cold northerly winds, so it's going to chill us out by Thursday, Friday. And I'm not talking cold like we had before. We're talking like 30s versus what we had recently with the 20s, and 40s leading up to it. But we do see this damming cold air, the cold air east of the mountains. So as this moisture comes out, where it comes out, how it comes out, whether or not it comes out like this, I think is still up for debate. But it could bring some ice in the beginning of it, or maybe not. This particular track kind of went up to the west of us, so that warmed us up nicely and causes some rain. And as you saw yesterday, we could still use the rain. This is a storm I've been really watching around the 3rd or 4th. I think, again, it's all timing and cold air and things like that. Although this is showing a really strong low pressure system moving over us as rain, and that seems to be possible, plausible, or whatever. I don't think it would take much for this to change tracks to the southeast. It would also not take much for it to move to the northwest. So we'll watch this one. This pattern we're moving into is not one where we have blocking cold in place, meaning the cold air is not sitting around waiting for moisture to run into it and it can't move out of the way because it's so strong. What we have here is low pressure systems that get ejected, and if a cold high happens to be above us, we get lucky and we get the snow. But luck is always in play in general, and so we're going to just have to be a little more lucky this time around. And so it's all about when that low pressure system comes out as to whether or not we've got high, colder air in place or whether or not. To tell you the honest truth, I think the models are kind of favoring a mixed bag, meaning like maybe an icy situation, at least at the start of a storm, maybe even as soon as next weekend or a little bit into the following week. But between now and then, I mean, we're warm for a bit, then we're going to cool off a little bit, but we're not nearly as cold as we were. And when I say warm, I mean 40s, maybe 50s at some point before we cool off again into the 30s. Nothing too dramatic, nothing too exciting, but that's your Loudoun County weather outlook.